I can confirm to you today that Hamas dug a hole in the ground yesterday, placed the partial remains of Ophir inside of it, covered it back up with dirt, and handed it over to the Red Cross.
The truth behind the latest fresh attacks on Gaza is finally out, and the revelation has directly come from Israel. Israel has resumed its deadly airstrikes, and this time the trigger was not a rocket or a militant attack, but as per Israel, a shocking act of deception. In a late night televised briefing, Israeli spokesperson revealed what she called a cruel and calculated lie by Hamas.
Last night, Israel received the remains of a deceased hostage from Gaza, and following the identification process, it was determined the partial remains belong to Ophir Sarfati, a 27-year-old who was murdered in Hamas captivity after being kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival. Ophir was celebrating his 27th birthday on October 7th, 2023, with his partner and friends that horrific day when he was shot and wounded. The IDF rescued his body from Gaza in November of 2023, where he was later buried in Israel by his family. In March of 2024, additional remains of Ophir were returned to Israel for burial. I can confirm to you today that Hamas dug a hole in the ground yesterday, placed the partial remains of Ophir inside of it, covered it back up with dirt, and handed it over to the Red Cross. The IDF caught the entire sequence of events on a military drone. The Prime Minister ordered a meeting to take place at the IDF headquarters with senior-ranked security officials to discuss the serious repercussions the terror group will now face. Hamas signed a deal that would require them to hand over all of our 48 hostages, which was violated 15 days ago now. Israel has not only waited patiently during this time, but gave Hamas an opportunity to retrieve and hand over all of our 28 deceased hostages in captivity. We are fully aware and have knowledge that Hamas can locate and retrieve the remains of our 13 deceased hostages that are still in Gaza right now.
The remains handed over by Hamas, supposedly those of an Israeli hostage, turned out to belong to Ophir Zarfati, an Israeli killed during the October 7 terror attack that had sparked this entire war. But here's the twist. Israel says Hamas dug up and replanted Zarfati's body at an excavation site, then called in the Red Cross, claiming to have found one of the 13 remaining hostages. Netanyahu's office said this was unacceptable deceit, and that is when Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered immediate retaliation. The Israeli Defense Forces were told to resume powerful, forceful strikes, and within hours, the skies over Gaza were ablaze. Residents described the bombardment as the heaviest since the ceasefire began. Dozens are feared dead, entire blocks reduced to rubble once again. Meanwhile, Hamas has rejected Israel's claim, saying that retrieving bodies from under the wreckage has become nearly impossible, pointing to massive destruction, blocked tunnels, and the lack of proper equipment. But Israel insists this was no accident. It was a propaganda ploy designed to stall pressure. A fragile truce has been broken, a war reborn from deceit.